Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari. Yashodanandana Rajadanandana Yashodanandana Rajadanandana Yamuna Tira Kanasari Jaya Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari. Girivara Hari. Yashodanandana Rajadanandana Yashodanandana Rajadanandana Yamuna Tira Kanasari Yamuna Tira Kanasari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Jai Time Vishupad Paramahamsa Pri Vrajgachaja Stotra Satta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Tiraboy Charanaravind Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Iskandi BT Founder Charya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jaini Thai Gold Pimanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Sarakaya Taksurunmiritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhuttare Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanditam Sya Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanidyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah Narayanam Namaskritya Dharam Shaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Nara Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Sridham Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayesha Badrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving service, devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamhitam Uttamaśloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Danyam Swasya Namaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Mukam karoti vasaram pangum langayate girim yatkripa taham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Yatkripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class. Continuing from canto number 7, chapter 14, text number, today 9 and 10. Mrigostra 9. Mrigostra Kara Markaku. Sarisrip Kaja Thanks. Word for word, mriga, mriga, deer, ustra, ustra, camels, kara, asses, maraka, maraka, monkeys, akhu, mice, sarishrip, snakes, kaja, kaga, kaga, birds, makshikaha, flies, atmanaha, of one's self, putravat, like the sons, pashyat, one should see, tai, with those sons, esham, of these animals, antaram, difference, kiat, how little. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. One should treat animals such as deer, camels, asses, monkeys, mice, snakes, birds, and flies exactly like one's own son. How little difference there actually is between children and these innocent animals. Kind of repeat after me. One should treat animals such as deer, camels, asses, monkeys, mice, snakes, birds, and flies, exactly like one's own son. How little difference there actually is between children and these innocent animals. Report. One who is in Krishna consciousness understands that there is no difference between the animals and the innocent children in one's home. Even in ordinary life, it is our practical experience that a household dog or cat is regarded on the same level as one's children without any envy. Like children, the unintelligent animals are also sons of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore a Krishna conscious person, even though a householder should not even though a householder should not discriminate between children and poor animals. Unfortunately, modern society has devised many means. Welcome back. Your friends are here. Unfortunately, modern society has devised many means for killing animals in different forms of life. For example, in the agricultural fields, there may be many mice, flies, and other creatures that disturb production, and sometimes they are killed by pesticides. In this verse, however, such killing is forbidden. Every living entity should be nourished by the food given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Human society should not consider itself the only enjoyer of all the properties of God. Rather, men should understand that all the other animals also have a claim to God's property. In this verse, even the snake is mentioned, indicating that a householder should not be envious even of a snake. If everyone is fully satisfied by eating food that is a gift from the Lord, why should there be envy between one living being and another? In modern days, people are very much inclined toward communistic ideas of society. But we do not think that there can be any better communistic idea than that which is explained in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Even in the communistic countries, the poor animals are killed without consideration, although they also should have the right to take their allotted food with which to live. Reading the translation again, one should treat animals such as deer, camels, asses, monkeys, mice, snakes, birds, and flies exactly like one's own son. How little difference there actually is between children and these innocent animals. So in the Bhagavad Gita, of course, Krishna explains how one who develops this knowledge of Krishna consciousness, he sees the presence of living entities in all different species. Pandita Samadharshina. And as explained in this verse, does not understands that life is actually sacred. And therefore, Prabhupada makes reference to the, just very briefly, but it's a very major topic for which there are movements around the world today. Some of them are called pro-life or animal protection. Huge amounts of animals are unnecessarily killed every year. Of course, with the kind of modern agriculture that has been ongoing since many decades, where there is practically indiscriminate use of pesticides and chemical fertilizers, etc., which are not only destroying different animals, but actually ultimately destroying so many different living entities within the earth and destroying the soil. We forget, or we don't know. Most people who have not taken up to this knowledge don't know that at one time we were in one of these bodies. We whenever we see some animal, maybe in our room or something, we should always remember that there's the presence of a jiva is as much there as it is in our own body, and we don't know who is there. Could be some great personality who has the ability to curse us if we give that living entity any kind of trouble, isn't it? So therefore, Vedic culture is automatically, Prabhupada explains, when one becomes Krishna conscious, then automatically so many things fall into place. One of the main reasons, of course, to become vegetarian is to avoid causing suffering, pain to living entities. The the burden, the amount of suffering on a daily basis that is inflicted upon so many different species is, unimaginable. There is a website. It's called the Killing website, not the Killing website. Some killing of species. One can, every moment of the day, one can know how many different species in which categories, whether it's like fish or animals, horses and cows, and the exact number is given. It's like if you look at the stock market, it's always changing, right? So this is another kind of stock market. The word, killing, I quoted actually in that. And we should know that actually all of this unnecessary cruelty to animals is creating a very accumulating the karmic reaction very, very seriously. Prabhupada would explain how that is why nature arranges at different times wars to take place. You're killing in your factories so many different animals, especially this is a symptom of Kali Yuga. The most important of all animals, because there's gradation also. The most important of all animals, a cow, indiscriminately slaughtered, isn't it? All over the world, including here in India, which is previously practically unthinkable. I was just hearing a lecture, Srila Prabhupada mentioning how not that long ago, people would never eat meat in the house. They would do so secretly, or they would go to like a Kali Ghat or whatever, and it was done even 30 years ago, actually, maybe 40 years back. Now you go anywhere, like in Navadvip or other places, and they keep goats, and they'll just out in the open actually slaughter them. And anyways, all of these very horrible things that are taking place are symptoms of individuals who have become totally insensitive, who are totally ignorant of the basic laws of dharma. So therefore, becoming Krishna conscious means becoming conscious of the the evolutionary process which is taking place in all the different species of life, and therefore one learns to live in harmony. Of course, if farmers hear this verse, this purport, they will become troubled, because what to do? So many living entities come and eat my crops. But actually in the Shastra, the understanding is there that one knows and one accepts also that a certain percentage of the crop will automatically go for different animals. And if there's proper way of growing, just like now we are, since many decades, it's part of the what we call modern agriculture, monocropping, isn't it? So this this is actually not natural. When there is more variety, which is meant to be nature's way, one of the one of the global, one of many global problems that we are faced with is what is it? The disappearance of the variety of crops or produce. In other words, Krishna's creation is such that he has created an abundance. Nature can provide an abundance and unlimited, practically, many varieties of different produce. But because we are tampering with nature, we are increasing the destruction in so many ways. It is said that most of us know about just a few, for example, few types of rice. If one does some research, in practically, especially in Asian countries, there are thousands of different types of rice, hundreds of thousands. I forget the exact number, but it's over like maybe 400,000 different types of rice, and some of them are in some places. Just like a few days back from Indonesia, this mangosteen,
yeah,
one particular fruit doesn't grow here. You know, mangosteen. Old friends, right? Hey, what are you doing here? They know each other for a long time. So the text, Narada Muni here is explaining how, especially householders, because householders, we will see, either we already read or I think it will be coming up. There are 5 prescribed duties for householders, and one of them is actually to give food to animals. And here in India, it's quite common. Some people, they will put aside some portion, isn't it? And I remember when I was visiting some, actually Prabhu Nityananda in Midnapur district here in Bengal, there was one gentleman, and there were still many people like that also. Every morning they take it upon themselves to when they go out for their morning walk, they take some chapatis with them and they give to the cows. Very nice practice. They would do that especially in Rajasthan, where they have so many cows. So one who is becoming Krishna conscious means being aware and conscious of other living entities and wanting to avoid giving them any kind of pain or causing any suffering. And here specifically it mentions how there is actually, they are very innocent. Of course, in one sense, no one is innocent because we are all, reaping our different reactions. But they are like helpless creatures in so many ways, so many different insects and whatnot. So this is the Prabhupada points out also how there is very little difference between small children and small animals. That's why children like to play with dogs, and because they're on the same level of consciousness, practically. Because a young child is like totally on the Bobby platform, like the dog actually. So they get along well. So this is the text. Actually, we're meant to read the next verse as well. So I'll just read the purport again. Not the purport, but the translation to text 9. One should treat animals such as deer, camels, asses, monkeys, mice, snakes is there also, birds and flies exactly like one's own son. Like one's own son. How little difference there actually is between children and these innocent animals. So just one last quick point. It is true that in agriculture, in some places, in most places, like they'll have problem with, like in South India at SSKBK, we have problems with monkeys. In another place, it's field rats, rats, or another place, snakes, different animals. But the more we do things, monkeys are coming in many places because we are destroying their natural habitat. So that's a major problem. Also, the destruction of natural habitat is forcing different living entities to come in our agricultural field, isn't it? And what is commonly known and a major problem also, the technical term is a loss of biodiversity. It's a big topic actually. So in natural Vedic farming or agriculture, there is there is natural biodiversity, which is we could say taking place automatically because we follow and respect the arrangement of nature. And when there is more biodiversity, there is less, and also there's a whole system, for example, that's in the Shastra, of preparing seeds in such a way that they are, I was reading, like they are put in some ghee, and in other words, they are protected from the moment they are put in the soil, and in this way they become more resistant. So when we do things more according to nature, there will be sufficient for mankind. And the opposite is true. When we deviate from the laws of nature, then all kinds of irregularities will be there, and there will be production problems. Yeah.
But Kshatriyas used to kill the animals, which are wild and disturb the fields of the people. That is one of the
Yes, but so your point is that it was the responsibilities of Kshatriyas to kill wild animals, but generally wild animals generally would stay in the forest. Now we know very well how because of our exploitation, for example, New York, which is producing one of the most well-known, popular newspapers, they call the New York Times. In order to produce that New York Times, they have depleted the forests from Canada. Canada is making good money because it's a supply and demand. But this is, I believe, in the U.S., maybe or globally, maybe 80 or 90% of our forests have been destroyed. So naturally, animals more will be in search for food, etc., like that.
that is the present scenario. But previously also sometimes the
No,
wild animals like the elephants, big animals, so they used to attack the nearby villages. So then
yes,
they control because that population sometimes it exceeds than
yes,
the required.
yes. it would happen even in the past, but I would say much less than today, because we are because of our not living in keeping with the laws of nature. We are causing a lot more of these disruptions to take place, where different species are forced to come out of their natural habitat. Yeah.
And also, one may say on this sloka, uh, as a goal of the for a devotee, the goal is seeing the supreme personality of Godhead in every living entity, and not the putravat. That means the living entity seeing as a brother or as a son, as a son. So this is just a we should not so much think about this. This is one of the materialistic level of instruction on the materialistic level, but actually we have to see supreme personality of Godhead in it.
That is there, but that's also should not, we should not be minimizing. It's a direct instruction coming from Narada Muni that we should see all living entities as uh, and treat them as we are meant to treat those who are dependents. Those living entities are dependent.
Yeah, in our society, sometimes devotees they don't give much importance to these chapters. These chapters. So this is on the Nunstas and it's on the Varnasrama.
Yes, well, obviously Prabhupada gave a fair amount of importance because there's quite a few purports. So we're going to read the next purport here to text 10, which is, I'll just read it once briefly here. Trivargam nati krich shrena bhajita griha medyapi yatha desham yatha kalam yavad daivo papaditam. Translation: even if one is a householder rather than a brahmachari, a sannyasi or a vanaprastha, one should not endeavor very hard for religiosity, economic development, or satisfaction of the senses. Even in household life, one should be satisfied to maintain body and soul together with whatever is available with minimum endeavor. According to place and time, by the grace of the Lord, one should not engage oneself in ubra karma. Very important instruction. And of course, the purport is, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada will elaborate here. In the human life, there are four principles to be fulfilled: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. First, one should be religious, observing various rules and regulations, and then one must earn some money for maintenance of his family and the satisfaction of his senses. The most important ceremony for sense gratification is what? Marriage. Because sexual intercourse is one of the principal necessities of the material body. Yan mai tunadi vihamedi sukam hitucham. Although sexual intercourse is not a very exalted requisite in life, both animals and men require some sense gratification because of material propensities. One should be satisfied with married life and not expend energy for extra sense gratification or sex life. As for economic development, the responsibility for this should be entrusted mainly to the Vaishyas and Grihastas. So it's very important. Human society should be divided into Varnas and Ashramas: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. Economic development is necessary for Grihastas. Brahmana Grihastas should be satisfied with a life of adhyayana, adhyapana, yajana, and yajana. Being learned scholars, teaching others to be scholars, learning how to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, and also teaching others how to worship Lord Vishnu or even the demigods. A Brahmana should do this without remuneration, but he is allowed to accept charity from a person whom he teaches how to be a human being. As for the Kshatriyas, they are supposed to be the kings of the land, and the land should be distributed to the Vaishyas for agricultural activities, cow protection, and trade. Shudras must work. Sometimes they should engage in occupational duties as cloth manufacturers, weavers, blacksmiths, goldsmiths, brassmiths, and so on. Or else they should engage in hard labor to produce food grains. These are the different occupational duties by which men should learn their livelihood. So, important point to remember. We've been talking, and we often refer in the context of Varnasrama to what is called prescribed duties. So prescribed duties are very much referred to and elaborated in this verse here and in these chapters as well. There are certain activities that are more ideal to be performed than others. And most of the modern activities which are connected with technology are not in the category of prescribed duties as referred to here. So Prabhupada, actually at the present moment, however, everyone is engaged in technological advancement, which is described in Bhagavad Gita as Ugra Karma. Okay, Prabhupada directly is telling here, extremely severe endeavor. This Ugra Karma is a cause of agitation within the human mind. Men are engaging in many sinful activities and becoming degraded by opening slaughterhouses, breweries, and cigarette factories, as well as nightclubs and other establishments for sense enjoyment. In this way, they are spoiling their lives. In all of these activities, of course, householders are involved, and therefore it is advised here with the use of the word api, that even though one is a householder, one should not engage himself in severe hardships. One's means of livelihood should be extremely simple. Prabhupada repeats this many times actually in this particular chapter. As for those who are not grihastas, the brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis, they don't have to do anything but strive for advancement in spiritual life. It's very interesting.
They don't need to.
Huh?
They don't have to do anything.
They don't have to do anything.
But strive.
Well, yeah, right. The sentence doesn't stop at they don't have to do anything.
I cannot do anything, not to be idle.
Not to eat.
Not to do anything for accumulation.
Yes. Or in other words, Prabhupada is telling their only main concern should be to advance spiritually, to be active or busy in spiritual, in self-realization. Yeah. This means that 3/4 of the entire population should stop sense gratification. Haribol. 3/4. The brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis completely stop sense gratification and simply be engaged in the advancement of Krishna consciousness. Only 1/4 of the population should be grihastha, and that should be according to the laws of restricted sense gratification. The grihasthas, vanaprasthas, brahmacharis, and sannyasis should endeavor together with their total energy to become Krishna conscious. This type of civilization is called Daiva Varnasrama. There you go. It's right in the purport. One of the objectives of the Krishna consciousness movement is to establish this Daiva Varnasrama, but not to encourage so-called Varnasrama without scientifically organized endeavor by human society. Very important purport. Again, directed especially to householders, how they are meant to organize the production to organize society, and specifically in terms of organizing production of food, and how they also should not be overly endeavoring and keeping. In a previous purport, Prabhupada was telling that householders should invent simple ways of earning money, as opposed to having or being forced to work in very abominable kind of situations under very abominable mentalities. Also, people who are exploiting of an exploitive nature. So, yeah. Anyone have some comment on?
Actually, in the 1/4 also, mainly Vaishyas only will work for the economic development. Like Brahmana, Grihasthas, they also mostly they spend time in spiritual activities like button part engaging.
Yeah. That means that even this 1/4, even within this 1/4 of Grihasthas, some of them also don't strive for economic development.
Yeah.
But that's a very small percentage, because the Brahmana Grihasthas are very few. Isn't it? Very few. Mostly there will be Shudra Grihastha, Vaishya. Yeah.
Lecture Bombay, November 8, 1974.
1974. Yes.
And the title is 75 Live at the Cost of 25.
75 live at the cost of 25.
75 men who live at the cost of 25 men Grasta. Our Vedic civilization is that in the society there are 4 divisions: Brahmachari, Grasta, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasi. Suppose there are 100 men in the village and in the place. The society is divided into 4 ashram: Brahmachari, Grasta, Vanaprastha. This is material calculation. Suppose if there are 100 men, 75 men are to be considered Brahmachari, Vanaprastha, and sannyas. So this 75 men will live at the cost of 25 men Grasta. Grasta has to give alms to the Brahmachari, to the Vanaprastha, and the sannyas. Just see how nice communism. The 25% group, they are earning and they are maintaining 75.
This is in a purport, is it?
Yeah. No, it's a lecture.
Oh, a lecture.
Yeah, November 8, 1974.
1974. Yes. We can see by this lecture excerpt you're mentioning, and also by this purport, how it is, of course, obvious how viticulture prime goal and objective is facilitating individuals to become self-realized, to properly utilize this human form of life, and not, and so therefore Prabhupada was so much condemning modern day society, which is not helping that to happen, rather the opposite, isn't it? Is forcing and pushing everyone towards all kinds of ugra karmic activities, and and training individuals. Atmana, killer of the soul, modern day education is teaching us in this way as well. So therefore, very important for devotees to understand these basic principles, these underlying principles in terms of society, and we should not take this shortcut, which Prabhupada did not approve of this shortcut that let us just live in a temple and forget about the rest of the world, which is the kind of mentality that because some devotees, they say like this, Maharaj, you know, if I go in the country and work, I won't have time to chant Hare Krishna. And that may well be in the initial stage, but actually that is not the actual situation. There's a wonderful 20-minute, it was a TED Talk. This one young person from Thailand, you might have seen this. I was sharing it during different seminars. So this one young man, he was living in a village, and he was kind of, at some point, different people were telling him, you go to Bangkok, you go and get educated, get a university degree, you know. So he's a very, we can see in his presentation, because he's a very simple kind of minded person. Anyways, he went to Bangkok, left his village, went to Bangkok, and started studying, but then he wasn't feeling well. He was sensing, understanding more and more that actually I shouldn't be doing this. This is not good. And you know, thinking and thinking. So at some point he decided. He tells this in his TED Talk. You know, he decided. I decided, because I was observing how people are spending so many years in study, and then just to get some degree, just so that they can get some job, and that's a whole, you know, so that you can buy a house. And so he at one point decided, he left his studies, went back to his village, because he got some, Krishna gave him some good realizations. He started to develop some land, either his own land or whatever. And then, so he explains that, you know, within a short time, he says, now I only work like 2 hours, just a few hours, you know, during the day. And he says, I learned to build my own simple house. And he says, I've been doing this now for the last 3 years. And now I have 3 houses. My problem now is which house I should sleep in. You know, this is possible actually in Asian countries. Not possible in other Western countries, where the
climate is
yeah, correct. The weather is not. And anyway, Shastra is telling that one shouldn't be living there. There's a verse, right? One should not live in places where there are no natural coconut trees, mango trees, mangish fruits growing. Where there's no papaya growing and no such kind of tropical fruit, one should not be living there. So places like Hawaii is okay, you know, Florida possibly, but most, I mean, that's why, you know, that's why America was only discovered a few hundred years ago. You know, and you know, why people went, or there's so many reasons, but people went to the West. There was what we call a gold rush. This happened both in Canada and the US also. For material acquisition, you know, for material. Those who actually want to live a more simplified life, the Asian countries are so it was going back 5,000 years ago. These you know, these were just like forests, wild forests.
Even everyone tried to invent find the India actually. That's why they call Red Indians, because they thought that these are the Indians. In Canada also.
Right. Red Indians.
The intention was to find the Indians.
Right.
Because that is the most opulent and feasible place to stay, and minerals and everything is available. So that's why.
Yeah. So yeah, this point that is being made here, how the majority of citizens are meant to primarily focus on their spiritual growth, spiritual development.
Yeah, we were discussing that that TED talk in that simple house, because in the Asian countries it is easy to build the any construction. You can easily live now the climate all the entire year without any
Yes,
big
yeah. So that's an important question that we should put up to Radharam Prabhu and others. How close to nature will this kutir end up being? Huh?
We are changing now. Now we are going for good.
Going for wood. No, but just like we need to make some base for our dear friend here. So anywhere where there's especially not a major threat for flood, can easily make some, some structure. Especially we have two experts with wood here.
In India, wood is also very costly because we don't have trees now. So
Yes, but traditionally it was not like that. Prabhupada, he would explain as you go to some place, some portion of the forest you cut to make your own house, and then you still keep, like Vrindavan is full of, used to be, hundreds and thousands of forests. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, actually, one's means of livelihood should be extremely simple.
Yeah, not just simple, extremely simple.
What it means, extremely simple?
It means extremely, it should be extremely clear.
We can experience in Indonesia, in Cambodia, in Hebrew. Extremely simple. During rainy season, especially. So many herb is grown up. If we simply
Yeah, most people, but most people, but everyone think this is all weeds. People don't know.
Yeah, actually there is herb which is selected by the Ayurvedic doctor to cure the problem, to cure the disease. When one Ayurvedic doctor from Kerala was staying in Hebrew, he saw us, this is the food, this food, this food. And actually we know, but no one uses it. That is the problem.
Yes.
Not use the gift of nature.
Yes.
And all that weed is a food actually.
Yes.
Which make the monkey very strong. When Pushpa Mataji in second Kaba teach to us, you know why the teeth of monkey is so strong? This is their food. Why monkey is jump like something? This is their food.
Yeah.
Why you are lose body? Because every day you eat a potato and this kind of oil. He eat this herb. Like it's strong. Really, we can experience like that.
That's why the monkeys in Hebrew are in ecstasy, because we're eating all that food for them.
Every day they will come.
They're eating our food.
Monkeys.
Yeah.
And collecting our mango and
Okay. We can close for now. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Sri Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanandi.
And yes.
When you came back? Okay. You stayed a little longer, I think, in South?
Yeah. 1 week extra.
Okay.
3 weeks.
Okay. Yeah.
Yesterday
Yeah.
Why it's not ending?